Revenge Office Stories. Before we start, if you believe the most underestimated person in the room is usually the most dangerous one, go ahead and subscribe. You've found your people. They gave the keys to their billion-dollar kingdom to the VP's unqualified best friend and expected me to just sit down and shut up. They never, ever imagined I had my own master key. My revenge wasn't just about getting even. It was about twisting their precious merger so completely inside out. They wouldn't know what hit them until their empire was just a pile of rubble. And I was the one holding the match. This isn't just a story about losing a job. It's about how I took on a corrupt VP and a smug board of directors and tore down their self-serving fantasy from the inside, all while they were smiling and patting me on the head. For 8 years, Innovatech Solutions was more than just my employer. It was my baby. I wasn't there on day one, but I was the first person hired in the second wave, the one who helped whip a chaotic startup into a lean, mean, multi-million-dollar software machine. My title was Director of Strategic Integration, which is really just a fancy way of saying I was the company's living memory. I knew where every digital skeleton was buried, every shortcut in our code, and every handshake deal made over lukewarm coffee in the early days. My mentor, an original founder named Michael, called me the company's conscience. He knew the corporate world was a game and wanted to make sure someone with a soul was helping steer. Our success didn't go unnoticed. For the better part of a year, we'd been in merger talks with Titan Corp, a giant in the tech industry. This wasn't just a deal, it was the deal. A billion-dollar acquisition that would make our founders and execs filthy rich and supposedly give the rest of us incredible security. And I was the linchpin for the whole thing on our end. Due diligence, data rooms, integration mapping, it all came through me. I pulled all-nighters and gave up countless weekends building the operational skeleton that would let our agile little company get absorbed by a corporate monster without losing its soul. I knew that merger agreement better than the lawyers who wrote it, because I was the one who had to turn all that legalese into an actual, functional plan. The deal was a maze of financial instruments, stock conversions, and timelines. I had personally modeled every scenario, stress-tested every single assumption, and built the 5-year roadmap. The exec team, led by our VP of Operations, Mark, depended on me completely. They didn't get the nitty-gritty details, the delicate dance of data and people it required. They just saw the big number, $1 billion payday. They'd pop into my office, eyes glittering with thoughts of new boats and beach houses, and ask, "Are we good? Is it all going to work?" And I, the loyal, hardworking employee, would smile and say, "Everything is under control." I really believed in the merger. I thought it was the finish line we'd all been running toward. I saw my future right there in front of me. A senior role in the new company, a chance to use my skills on a global stage. I was proud. I was indispensable, or so I thought. A few years before he retired, my mentor Michael did something odd. As a parting gift, he transferred a small, strange block of his founders' shares to me. It wasn't enough to make me a millionaire, but they came with a bizarre, old-school clause from the company's original charter. He called them guardian shares. He told me, "This company has a good heart. These are here to make sure it keeps beating. You're the only one I trust to know when to use them." The clause gave the holder veto power over any changes to executive pay or golden parachutes during a change of control, like a merger. It was designed back in the freewheeling startup days to stop a hostile takeover where the founders got screwed. In our friendly, billion-dollar deal with Titan Corp, it felt like a weird, historical footnote, a relic. The lawyers on both sides had seen it, of course. They flagged it as unusual but non-material, assuming that whoever held the shares would be a friendly party, totally aligned with the board. They assumed it was just me, the loyal employee. They never even bothered to ask me about it. It was a footnote in a 1,000-page document, a detail they brushed off as irrelevant. And right there, in that dismissal, they planted the seed of their own downfall. The change came out of nowhere like it always does. It was a Tuesday morning. The merger was in its final stretch. I was prepping for a huge integration meeting with the Titan Corp team when Mark, the VP, called me into his glass office. He was grinning from ear to ear, a greasy, self-satisfied look plastered on his face. Sitting on the guest sofa, looking totally out of his depth in a fancy but ill-fitting suit, was a guy I'd never seen before. He had the soft hands of someone who'd never done a hard day's work. "Big news!" Mark boomed, gesturing at the guy on the sofa. "I want you to meet Kevin. We go way back, college roommates. He's an absolute rock star, and he's going to be taking the lead on the final phase of the merger integration." I just stood there, frozen. The words weren't making sense. Taking the lead? I was the lead. I had been for a year. I looked at Kevin, and he gave me a lazy, entitled little smirk. "Don't worry," Mark went on, totally oblivious. "We still need you to support the transition. Kevin will be taking over your role, and he'll be your new boss, basically. He'll be steering the ship from now on. Post-merger, he's our new senior vice president of global integration. Big job for a big talent." I finally found my voice, but it was thin. "Mark, with all due respect, I built this entire integration plan from scratch. The Titan team knows me. We have a system. Bringing someone new in now is risky." Mark's smile got tight. It was the condescending smile of a man who knows he holds all the cards. "That's the thing. We need a fresh perspective. Someone with a different energy. Kevin here has a fantastic track record in brand synergy." Brand synergy? Kevin looked like his main skill was picking out the right golf shirt. I could feel the blood draining from my face. This wasn't a business decision. It was cronyism, plain and simple. Mark was handing his best friend the role of a lifetime, a role I had earned. "I see," I said. The words tasted like ash. "And what happens to my role?" Mark waved a dismissive hand. "Oh, you'll be in the background. We need you to get Kevin up to speed. Show him the ropes, introduce him around. Make sure he has all your files. Think of yourself as support staff. Your top priority is making Kevin look good for the Titan folks. After the merger, we'll find something for you. Maybe in data analytics. Something more behind the scenes." Behind the scenes. I was being shoved into a closet. My expertise boiled down to a training manual for an unqualified imposter. The injustice of it was like a punch to the gut. 8 years of my life, my loyalty, my ideas, all tossed aside for the VP's buddy. Kevin finally spoke, his voice slick with an authority he hadn't earned. "Yeah, looking forward to digging in. Just get me all your spreadsheets and PowerPoints, and I'll take it from there. Shouldn't be too hard, right?" I looked from Mark's smug face to Kevin's empty one. They didn't see a person. They saw a resource to be used up and thrown away. They honestly expected me to smile, nod, and just fade out while this clown took credit for my work and waltzed into a 7-figure job. In that moment, all the loyalty and pride I had for Innovatech curdled into something cold and hard. They had made a huge mistake. They had pushed me out of the spotlight, but left me in the room. And they had seriously, catastrophically underestimated what I knew. As I walked back to my desk, my mind already spinning, I wasn't just an employee anymore. I was a woman betrayed, and I was about to become their worst nightmare. The first few days were just one long humiliation. I had to sit in meetings I used to lead, taking notes while Kevin fumbled the names of the Titan executives. He'd ask questions so basic, so clueless about the deal, that I could see the Titan team giving each other confused looks. My job was to jump in, gently correct him, and re-explain my own ideas, all while framing it as just to add some color to what Kevin's saying. I was his translator, his safety net, his glorified secretary. He'd forward me emails from Titan with a simple "handle this," then present my work as his in the next meeting. Mark and Kevin would go on long, boozy lunches while I sat at my desk methodically copying years of my life's work onto a hard drive for him. They wanted me to become a ghost in the machine that I had built. For a week, I let myself stew. The anger was a hot knot in my stomach. I thought about quitting. I polished my resume. I dreamed of walking into Mark's office and telling him what I really thought. Then late one Thursday night, I was archiving old files and it hit me. A memory of Michael, handing me that share certificate. His voice in my head. You're the only one I trust to know when to use them. I stopped what I was doing and logged into the shareholder portal. And there it was, my little block of Guardian shares. And right next to it, the note from the due diligence team. Clause 14.2. Holder possesses veto, right on executive compensation, adjustments, and severance packages, golden parachutes during change of control. Deemed non-material due to holder's employee status and alignment with board interests. Alignment with board interests. I started laughing. It was a hollow, bitter sound in my empty office. Oh, I was aligned, all right. Just not with their interests. That night, I didn't go home. Fueled by stale coffee and pure, cold rage, I dove back into the merger agreement. But this time, I wasn't reading it like an architect. I was reading it like a demolitions expert. I wasn't looking for ways to build bridges. I was looking for the load-bearing walls to knock out. And then I found it, a masterpiece of corporate greed, hidden so deep I'd almost admired its audacity the first time I saw it. Tucked away in the financial annexes was the poison pill. The deal was for $1 billion, but that price could fluctuate down based on performance. And a nasty little clause Mark and the execs had cooked up ensured that any downward price adjustment would be absorbed almost entirely by the regular employee stock pool. But the value of the executives' massive stock grants and, more importantly, their multi-million-dollar change of control bonuses, their golden parachutes, were locked in at the full $1 billion valuation. Put simply, if the company sold for $900 million, the engineers, salespeople, and support staff would see their payouts slashed. But Mark and his buddies? They'd still get their full, fat bonuses as if nothing had changed. They were literally protecting their own payday at the direct expense of their people. I'd even asked Mark about it months ago. Is this standard? It seems unfair. He just brushed it off. Legal stuff. Don't worry about it. It's just downside protection for leadership. It wasn't standard. It was theft wrapped in legalese. And I suddenly realized my Guardian shares weren't a relic. They were a tactical nuke. That clause gave me veto power over their golden parachutes. Their whole crooked scheme depended on my approval. My approval. My despair hardened into diamond. Quitting was too easy. I wasn't going to just get even. I was going to get justice. I would let them build their whole crooked castle. Let them stand on top and declare victory. And then I would pull the single pin that made the whole thing crumble. My plan had 3 phases. Phase 1, malicious compliance. My job was to make Kevin look good. Fine. I'd make him look like a genius. I started prepping his materials with excruciating detail, scripting his talking points, even anticipating questions. He was predictably thrilled. He started puffing up his chest in meetings, actually believing he was doing the work. Kevin's a natural, Mark gushed. What they didn't see was that I was carefully curating the information he got. I wasn't lying, too risky. I was just omitting things. I'd give him 95% of the data, but hold back the crucial 5%, the bit that revealed a problem, the part only I would know was missing. I was building him a Swiss cheese foundation, full of holes only I could see. Phase 2, sowing the seeds. Kevin, to show initiative, decided he needed to optimize my integration plan. He'd come to me with idiotic ideas. Why run 2 accounting systems for 3 months? Let's just switch to the Titan system on day 1. More efficient. Anyone with a brain knows that's a recipe for chaos. The old me would have argued. The new me smiled sweetly and said, "That's a bold idea, Kevin. Let me model that out for you." Then I'd write a detailed report on his efficiency plan and get his approval in writing. I was creating an undeniable paper trail of his incompetence, endorsed by him. I became his biggest cheerleader, encouraging his worst instincts. He thought I was finally recognizing his genius. I was just handing him a shovel and pointing where to dig. Phase 3, weaponizing the truth. While Kevin was busy optimizing, I was quietly talking to my network inside the company, the managers and engineers who actually made things run. I didn't reveal my plan, but I started asking questions. Hey, Sarah, have you seen the final conversion terms for our stock options? Hi, David. Kevin's new timeline seems aggressive. Does it look safe to you? I was planting seeds of doubt. The rumbling started. People began to feel like something was wrong, even if they couldn't put their finger on it. Trust in leadership began to crack. But my real weapon was the golden parachute clause. It was my ace. I had to time it perfectly. The moment had to be public, and it had to be catastrophic. I marked my calendar. The final pre-closing board meeting. Titan's top execs would be there. The press would be waiting. They thought it was a coronation. I knew it was an execution. The day of the final board meeting arrived. The air in the top-floor conference room was thick with smugness and expensive cologne. On one side sat our board and execs, with Mark looking like he was about to pop with pride. On the other, the stern-faced delegation from Titan Corp. I wasn't even supposed to be there. My role was over. Kevin sat next to Mark, clutching a leather portfolio full of the reports I'd written for him. I was invited to be available for any minor historical questions and stuck in a chair against the wall, meant to be invisible. It was the perfect seat. The CEO kicked things off with a triumphant speech, giving a special, gushing shout-out to Mark and his new star player, Kevin, for getting the deal done. Kevin puffed his chest out. Mark shot me a smug little glance. I just smiled, a calm, serene smile. Finally, they moved to the last item, the formal resolution to approve the merger and all its schedules, including Schedule C, the executive compensation and severance adjustment. This was it. All in favor of approving the resolution, the CEO asked. Hands went up. Aye. And then, from the back of the room, my voice cut through the quiet. I object. Every single head whipped around. The room went dead silent. Mark's face went from red to a sickly white. The Titan Corp executives all leaned forward. Our CEO stammered, I'm sorry, what? This is a board vote. I stood up, holding a single file folder. I understand, I said, my voice perfectly steady. However, as the holder of the Series A Guardian shares, I am exercising my rights under Clause 14b.2 of the company charter. I formally veto the approval of Schedule C concerning the executive compensation packages. You could have heard a pin drop. The Titan lead lawyer spoke, his voice like ice. Excuse me, who is this? Our CEO stuttered. She's an employee. The shares are a legacy instrument. Our legal team said they were non-material. Clearly, your legal team was mistaken, the Titan lawyer said, his eyes locked on me. Are you saying you can unilaterally block the executive compensation package? I'm not just stating it, I replied, placing a copy of the charter clause on the table. I'm doing it. The proposed golden parachutes, pegged to $1 billion valuation while employee options are not in the best interest of the shareholders. Therefore, I veto their approval. Mark finally exploded in a choked whisper. What are you doing? You can't. This will kill the deal. No, Mark, I said, looking right at him. Your greed is killing the deal. Did you really think you could fleece the employees who built this place and no one would notice? The Titan execs were whispering furiously. Their lead negotiator looked at our CEO. Is this true? Is the employee stock pool subsidizing your executive bonuses? Our CEO just stared at Mark, whose whole world was collapsing. Then the Titan CEO, the legendary Mr. Harrison, spoke for the first time. Young lady, he said, looking right at me, you just threw a grenade into a $1 billion deal. What do you want? This was the moment. I held all the cards. I want 3 things, I said, my voice ringing with confidence. First, the executive compensation schedule is redrafted. Everyone, from the C-suite to the junior devs, shares the same risk. No protected bonuses. The board members shifted uncomfortably. Second, I continued, looking at Kevin, who seemed to be shrinking. The integration plan on the table is a disaster waiting to happen, thanks to Kevin's optimizations. I have a file here detailing over a dozen critical failures, from contract violations to a data migration plan that will cause weeks of chaos. Titan Corp is buying a house of cards. I slid a thick folder across the table to Mr. Harrison. His eyes widened as he scanned the first page. And third, he asked. I took a deep breath. Mark is to be terminated for gross negligence and misleading the board. His golden parachute is cancelled. Kevin is to be dismissed immediately. His promised SVP job is obviously gone. Mark shot out of his chair. This is outrageous. Mr. Harrison held up a hand, silencing him. He looked at me, then at our CEO, and a slow, tiny smile touched his lips. He recognized a power play. He respected it. Our team will need to verify these risks immediately, he said, tapping my folder. If this is true, the current deal is off. We are putting the closing on hold. And with that, the entire Titan delegation stood up and walked out, leaving our stunned board behind. The champagne stayed on ice. The press release was never sent. In 10 minutes, I had turned their coronation into a funeral. The fallout was fast and brutal. Titan's auditors, armed with my folder, descended and verified everything within 48 hours. The deal was on life support. The board held an emergency session. There was yelling, but the facts were the facts. I had them. Mark was unceremoniously fired and escorted from the building with a cardboard box. No golden parachute. Kevin just vanished, didn't even clean out his desk. My Guardian shares had made me the most unlikely power broker in town. Titan, still wanting our tech, but furious at the deception, made it clear that any new deal had to go through me. Mr. Harrison, the Titan CEO, asked me to meet him for coffee. You have a killer instinct, he said. You saved my company a fortune and exposed the rot in yours. The original deal is dead. Help me restructure it. Help me make it right. And so we did. We hammered out a new deal for $850 million, a fair price reflecting the risks I'd exposed. The new terms, which I helped write, were equitable for everyone. My malicious compliance paper trail proved the disastrous plans were all Kevin's, making him the official scapegoat and shielding me completely. The day the new deal was announced, a small article in the Wall Street Journal mentioned the deal was saved by the pivotal oversight of a key strategic director who ensured a fair outcome for all shareholders. It didn't name me, which is what I wanted, but inside the company everyone knew. I didn't take a senior role at the new company. My work was done. I stayed on for 3 months to make sure the promises made were kept and that the good people landed safely. On my last day, instead of a party, dozens of my colleagues, the people who actually built the place, came by my desk one by one. They didn't know the whole story, but they knew I had fought for them. They shook my hand and said, "Thank you." That meant more than any title ever could. I walked out of that building for the last time with my head high. I didn't just get revenge. I rebalanced the scales. Mark and Kevin tried to push me into the shadows, to make me an invisible cog in their machine. They forgot that sometimes the smallest, quietest part is the one holding the whole thing together. They thought my silence was weakness, and my dedication was subservience. In the end, they learned a valuable lesson. The person who knows where all the secrets are buried is the last person you should ever try to bury. They wanted to write me out of the story, so I rewrote the ending and made them the villains. Have you ever been completely underestimated at work? Have you ever fantasized about the moment you could prove everyone wrong? Drop your story in the comments below. I read every single one. And if you enjoyed this, make sure to like and subscribe. I've got plenty more stories to tell. Thanks for listening.